So, I painted myself into a corner this week as far as pairings go. It's really stupid. With the sheer volume of breweries in the world, there's no reason for me to ever repeat breweries, right? And yet, with this Eisbock style, as I mentioned, there are only two options in the area, those being from Kalmbacher and Schneiderweiss. Seeing as how I already did a Schneiderweiss beer, I should do the Kalmbacher one this time, right? So what's the problem? Well, since you asked, the problem is that I'm not all that familiar with Kalmbacher Eisbock. I'm sure it's a fine beer, and I'm going to make it a point to try it in the near future. But as of this recording, I've not had the pleasure. Now I can look up some reviews on Beer Advocate or what have you, and extrapolate what the beer is like. I can fake my way through it. How different can it really be from the Aventinus Eisbock? But that's the thing, I don't know. The real issue here is that I don't want to lie to you. Not you, my one and only friend. I don't want to build our relationship on a foundation of deceit and subterfuge. So here's the truth, and just know it's not something I'm proud of. I haven't had every single beer out there. It's shocking, I know. And I know you're disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in myself. But there's only so much I can do. Do you even know how many beers there are out there? It's enough to make a man go mad. Beer Advocate alone has roughly 500,000 beers listed, and that's not in any way comprehensive. There is so much beer out there, and I've been trying my damnedest to try as many as possible. But I'm just one man. A lone beersman. And I've never had the Kalmbacher Eisbock. Whew. It feels good to tell the truth. Who knew, right? The only remaining problem here is that now I have to repeat a brewery for our beer and movie pairing today. I mean, sure, I could put off recording this until I've tried the Kalmbacher. I'm not on a deadline or anything, you know. But I'm just going to power through. I'm going to own my stupid mistake, and I'm going to make the best out of it. Today's pairing beer is the Schneiderweiss Aventinus Eisbock. 5 episodes in, and I'm already repeating myself. On the right side, I don't have to go into any history on Schneiderweiss. That should be fresh in our minds still. Part of me really wants to lean into the repetition and pair this with Encounters at the End of the World, the Werner Herzog documentary from 2007 that he shot in Antarctica, but I'm going to resist the urge. Besides, that's a fairly light movie. I mean, yes, it's a Werner Herzog movie, so by light, I mean there is a scene where a deranged penguin wanders away from his colony to commit suicide. But when you consider Herzog's entire catalog, his oeuvre, that's still pretty light. And Eisbocks are not light. We need a movie that can compete with this dark, strong, icy thing. That was a hint, by the way. The movie half of our pairing is 1982's The Thing, directed by the great John Carpenter. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. I've seen it a dozen times easily. It actually opened on the same day as Blade Runner, which I also love. That would have been a hell of a double feature. Neither one fared well at the box office, though, possibly due to the release of the much more crowd-pleasing alien movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial a few weeks earlier. It's hard to say. I know critics at the time really seemed to hate The Thing. The reviews from its initial release are surprisingly scathing, and it wasn't just mainstream reviewers who hated it. Alan Spencer, writer for science fiction magazine Starlog, went so far as to say, "It's my contention that John Carpenter was never meant to direct a science fiction horror movie. Here's some things he'd be better suited to direct. Traffic accidents, train wrecks, and public floggings." Harsh, dude. This was Carpenter's first major studio release, following independent hits like Halloween and Escape from New York, and the negative reception of The Thing really damaged his reputation in Hollywood. I don't think he ever really got over the debacle of The Thing's release. He truly thought the movie was going to blow people away. And he was right, he just wasn't right away. It wasn't until people revisited the movie on home video that its reputation was salvaged, and by then the damage to Carpenter's career was already done. If you've seen The Thing, which I'm sure many of you have, then you know why it's a good pairing for an Eisbock. If you haven't seen it, then what are you waiting for? This movie fucking owns. Big bearded Kurt Russell and Keith David fighting a shape-shifting alien. Sign me the fuck up. One of those critics from 1982, Vincent Canby, gave an inadvertent endorsement of the movie, saying, "It's entertaining only if one's needs are met by such sights as those of a head walking around on spider legs, autopsies on dogs and humans in which the innards explode and take on other, not easily identifiable forms, hand severings, immolations, worm-like tentacles that emerge from the mouth of a severed head, or 2 or more burned bodies fused together to look like spare ribs covered with barbecue sauce. Who doesn't want to see that movie? Especially with state-of-the-art practical effects from Rob Bottin? The only thing wrong with that review snippet is that it gives too much away. Don't tell me everything that happens in the movie, dude. Let me watch it for myself. Vincent Canby's review does give you an idea of how twisted this movie gets. It is brutal, and bleak, and graphic, and cynical, paranoid, and hostile, and fucking awesome. It pairs great with an Eisbock because they're both strong, and dark, and forged in ice. And you will need a 12% beer to help you get through it. Liquid courage and all that. You'll need it to calm your nerves after watching a severed head grow spider legs and dance around on the ceiling. Whereas Eisbock is a freeze-distilled Doppelbock, The Thing is a perfect distillation of fear, suspicion, and paranoia. Set on an American research station in Antarctica, the movie revolves around a close-knit group of men who discover the remains of a strange being. Turns out the being is from another planet, and it is not completely dead. What's worse, it can assimilate and imitate other life forms. This means it can look like any living thing, humans included. As the Thing makes its way through the base, the crew is overcome with paranoia. Any one of them could be the Thing in disguise. Wilford Brimley's character does some calculations and realizes that if the Thing makes it to the general population, it could conceivably take over the entire planet in a matter of months. There would be no way to stop it with any certainty. These men, scared and secluded, not sure who they can trust, they alone must find a way to kill the Thing once and for all. Again, I ask, who doesn't want to see that movie? I get that it's a heavy movie and it's largely devoid of humor, and it's gory as fuck. I get that the ending is aggressively bleak and ambiguous, and some people have a real problem with ambiguity. They like things to be spelled out for them at all times, but fuck all that. This movie is a masterpiece of tone, body horror, and suspense. It is perfectly cast, tightly edited, and the gore effects will haunt your nightmares like no CGI cartoon will ever do. That this is the movie that cost Carpenter his multi-picture deal at Universal is, to me, insane. It's his best movie, and he's made some real classics. I love John Carpenter, in case you couldn't tell. But, having said that, even I must admit, not all of his movies are perfect. Halloween is a classic, but Hollywood can't stop remaking it, or rebooting it, or making unnecessary sequels to it. It's hard for the original to have the same impact when its legacy is tainted with so much other crap. To date, there are 11 Halloween movies. Some sequels, some remakes. That's so many movies, and none of them are as good as the first one. And the thing is, there are plenty of Carpenter movies that would potentially benefit from a reboot. I'm not saying anyone could make a better version of Escape from New York, or Big Trouble in Little China, or The Thing. There's a prequel to The Thing that came out in 2011. It's also called The Thing, confusingly, and it is a perfect example of the misguided hubris of trying to redo a classic. The key to remaking Carpenter is to remake one of his near misses. I'm talking about movies like Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness, or fuck, even They Live could be remade well if done by the right people. Those are 3 movies that, while fun to watch, they never managed to live up to their respective premises. The ideas behind those movies are fantastic, but for one reason or another, the movies aren't as good as they should be. They don't reach their full potential. Those are the movies people should be looking to remake, not something as perfect as The Thing. I used to really hate remakes. I thought making a shitty remake would somehow lessen the original, but these days I've mostly gotten over it. I do still hate it when they remake really good movies. That is something I will never understand. But I also know that even if the remake is terrible, I can always just ignore it and rewatch the original. Just because a shitty remake exists, that doesn't mean I have to acknowledge it. Like that awful Tim Burton Planet of the Apes remake that stars Mark Wahlberg and doesn't actually exist. And some remakes have managed to do some really creative stuff with the subject matter. The Evil Dead remake, which I thought was a terrible idea, actually managed to be kind of brutally entertaining. Ocean's 11 is the poster child for successful remakes, but that's the thing I was talking about, where you take a mediocre movie and make it great. If someone were to take In the Mouth of Madness which is about a book that makes its reader go murderously insane, and give it a consistent tone and a resolution that made any sense, that would be a great movie. Carpenter's version is fun, but it's not as good as it could be. Anyway, I'm getting way off topic now, again. You should watch The Thing, is what I'm trying to say here. If you've already seen it, you should watch it again. And if you're looking for a beer to drink while watching abject body horror, you can't go wrong with an Eisbock. Aventinus from Schneider Weiss is pretty much the quintessential Eisbock, so it makes sense to drink it while watching the quintessential John Carpenter movie. And it makes sense for you to rate and subscribe to the podcast. You can leave a scathing review too, warning people of all the gore and brutality and misanthropy present in the show, but don't be surprised if history proves you wrong. You can like the show on Facebook and follow it on Twitter at Beer Blockbuster. You can send me suggestions for other beer styles you're curious about or movie stuff you would like to talk about. If you want to commission me to be your own personal beer and movie pairer, maybe we can come to an arrangement. I will require a minimum of 4 meals a week and a little box at the foot of your bed in which to sleep. These points are non-negotiable. So join me next time when we will be, doing the same thing all over again. Talking beer and movies. It's what we do here. At least until I get bored and we switch over to a podcast extolling the virtues of upcycling or some other dumb shit. Until then, my name is Dustin Martin, and I'll catch you later. Good night, my little nerds.